Welcome back to Fact Frontier, where we don't spin the story, we tell it straight. Today, we're breaking down one of the most underreported and misunderstood conflicts happening right now, the Iran-USA standoff. A conflict reshaping the Middle East, shaking global oil markets, and affecting far more people than most realize. The biggest thing nobody wants to admit publicly is this. This conflict did not go the way Washington expected. The United States entered this situation expecting a fast and decisive outcome. But according to multiple reports from major American media outlets and military analysts, Iran's military and industrial capabilities were not destroyed the way many officials claimed. Analysts now believe Iran could restore a large portion of its missile and drone production capacity within months. And the cost of this conflict for America has been enormous. Reports suggest the United States lost a significant percentage of key drone assets during operations connected to the conflict. Modern warfare depends heavily on drones, and replacing them is expensive and time-consuming. At the same time, American weapons stockpiles were reportedly stretched so heavily that previously approved military supply plans for allies in Asia had to be reconsidered. That means this conflict is no longer just about the Middle East. It's beginning to affect America's global military positioning. There are also growing discussions about strain inside the Pentagon itself, including reports of budget pressure impacting military training programs. Now, let's talk about the real center of this entire crisis. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important waterways on Earth, because nearly 20% of the world's oil passes through it every single day. And right now, Iran holds enormous leverage there. American naval officials have acknowledged how difficult it would be to fully reopen the strait through military force alone, without a ceasefire or broader agreement in place. Iran has reportedly increased inspections and oversight of ships moving through the area, creating major pressure on global energy markets. Oil traders, governments, and investors around the world are watching every move carefully, because even small disruptions there can send fuel prices higher globally. At the international level, tensions are becoming even more complicated.
Countries like China and Russia continue opposing stronger pressure against Iran at the United Nations, while European nations discuss additional sanctions connected to the Hormuz situation. Meanwhile, diplomacy is happening quietly behind the scenes. Qatar has re-entered negotiations as a mediator. Pakistan has also stepped forward, with senior officials traveling to Tehran in an attempt to reduce tensions between Iran and Washington. Japan and several European governments are also involved in back-channel discussions, trying to prevent the conflict from escalating further. But what makes this situation even more interesting is the disagreement happening inside the American leadership itself. Reports indicate there were serious divisions within the administration about whether to continue military pressure or push harder for negotiations. Some senior figures reportedly believed continued escalation could spiral into a much larger regional war, while others wanted a more aggressive approach. That internal division explains why messaging coming from Washington has sometimes appeared inconsistent. On the Iranian side, officials remain firm on one major issue: their nuclear program. Iran's negotiations continue insisting that uranium enrichment inside the country is non-negotiable, while the United States maintains the opposite position.
That gap remains one of the biggest obstacles preventing any final agreement. And now comes the part worrying governments across Europe and beyond. Some American officials have privately warned that this conflict may actually increase Iran's motivation to pursue nuclear weapons capability in the future, rather than reduce it. European governments reportedly became so concerned during parts of the crisis that emergency diplomatic statements were prepared in case the situation escalated further. The fear now is that the region may become even more unstable after the conflict than it was before. Economically, the damage is already spreading worldwide. Oil prices remain unstable,
Shipping routes are under pressure, and global investors are nervous about what happens next. Even wealthy Gulf countries are reportedly slowing or reconsidering major spending projects because of uncertainty in the region. For ordinary people, that translates into higher fuel prices, more expensive goods, and increased economic pressure across global markets. So, where does all of this go from here? There are really three possible paths. The first is a limited agreement, a situation where sanctions are partially eased, tensions calm down, and negotiations continue over Iran's nuclear program and regional influence. The second is renewed military escalation, something many analysts consider extremely dangerous because both sides still have significant capabilities that haven't fully been used. And the third scenario is a long-term stalemate, where tensions continue for months or even years without a clear resolution. One major wildcard remains Israel, which continues pushing for a harder stance against Iran, while other international actors push for diplomacy instead. That creates a complicated geopolitical situation with enormous consequences for the entire world. The reality is simple.
Iran has taken serious damage during this conflict, but it has also shown that it can impose major costs on the United States and the global economy through its strategic position in the region. At the same time, America still holds overwhelming military and economic power globally. Now the world is watching to see whether diplomacy can move faster than escalation. Because if negotiations fail, the next phase of this conflict could become far more dangerous than what we've already seen. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Fact Frontier for more deep dive analysis and updates on the stories shaping the world.